Hi everyone. An offshore oil rig is like a small city floating in the middle of the sea. Despite its location far from land, it continues to operate non-stop day and night. From here, billions of barrels of oil and gas are produced to meet the energy needs of people around the world. The oil industry plays a huge role at the center of the world economy. Even small changes in the price of crude oil can shake up the global economy. But beyond that, have you ever wondered about the lifestyles and daily lives of the people who live and work in offshore oil refineries, and what it's like to live in the middle of the ocean, far from land, while going about your routine in a place that never stops operating? While you may have heard stories about life on these amazing floating platforms, there are many interesting things that are rarely talked about. From the rigorous work routines to the unique facilities at sea, to the challenges of dealing with extreme weather. The first thing to understand is that life on an offshore oil rig is far from luxurious. It's not just a workplace, but also a challenging terrain that often puts the lives of its workers at risk. As dramatic as it may seem, the reality is that work at an offshore oil rig is strenuous and risky, with working conditions that are far from safe. Let's take a look at what life is like for workers at this challenging and dangerous offshore oil refinery. Since 500 years ago, the demand for oil has been steadily increasing, far outstripping the available supply. To meet this demand, in addition to drilling for oil from underground through pipelines and wells on land, oil companies began exploring marine areas. They developed drilling rigs that used hydraulic technology to extract crude oil from the seabed. One of the first locations of this offshore oil drilling was in the Gulf of Mexico, which became an important milestone in the history of global energy exploration. News of the discovery spread quickly, triggering exploration in other parts of the water. As new oil fields were discovered, including in Scottish waters and the North Sea, offshore oil exploration continued to grow. Workers decide that working in this industry is a big step that will drastically change their lives. Every worker must be prepared for challenges, from wearing specialized work gear to adapting to the harsh environment and strict discipline of an oil rig. Every new crew member arriving on an oil rig is immediately issued with safety gear such as safety glasses, protective helmets, coveralls, and shoes. In addition, regular safety training is also conducted both before work begins and during the assignment period. This ensures that every worker understands the risks and safe working procedures. Workers typically work long shifts of between 8 and 12 hours a day, with breaks for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This routine demands high stamina and focus as they work in a challenging environment far removed from normal life. Workers on these oil refinery platforms must also be prepared for night shifts, as the industry operates 24 hours a day and 7 days a week non-stop. As grueling as this may sound, it comes with its own benefits. After working for 2 full weeks, they usually get almost 3 weeks off to rest and gather with their families. While on an oil refinery platform, workers do not have to worry about basic needs such as food, laundry, and accommodation. All these facilities are provided by the company to ensure that they can focus fully on their work without being distracted by their daily affairs. These rooms with bunk beds are a common sight in offshore oil refineries, given the limited space and the need to maximize the use of the area. In addition, oil refinery platforms have strict rules regarding safety, including designated areas for smoking. In these zones, special lighters are provided that can only be used in these areas. The use of matches outside the smoking zone is strictly prohibited to prevent the risk of fire, given the flammable nature of oil and the danger of explosion. In addition, workers are also provided with advanced technology systems. With the advent of cell phone technology and broadband access, crew and staff can now stay connected to the internet conveniently, even in remote locations. Despite being far out at sea, these advancements provide an ease of communication that was once unimaginable, bringing them closer to their families and the outside world. Being in the middle of the ocean, workers face high risks as flammable crude oil is extracted directly from the depths of the earth. To manage dangerous gases such as toxic sulfide gas, a device called a slag flare is used, which burns some of the gas to separate it and reduce further risks. This process shows just how complex and risky work at an offshore oil refinery can be. Despite the use of slag flares, the risk of accidental exposure to chemicals remains, and the effects can be fatal. In addition, for workers on oil rig platforms such as medical, kitchen, catering, and other staff, life on an oil rig can be an exciting and enjoyable experience. Still, there are risks that cannot be ignored. Thanks to newer and safer oil refinery technology, such risks have now been significantly reduced. Nonetheless, precision and caution remain top priorities for all workers. For crews working on oil refinery platforms, their work schedules are highly dependent on the arrival and working conditions at the time. Typically, they work for 12 hours followed by 12 hours of rest. However, these working hours can differ depending on the type of work. Having to stay on the platform for 2 whole weeks with limited entertainment, the company has a responsibility to ensure the crew works long hours, but still gets enough rest. While these grueling-sounding hours may seem harsh, it is important to remember that all time spent on the platform, including meals and breaks, counts as part of the work period. This system is designed to maintain a balance and improve the well-being of the staff while on duty. The entire crew on an oil refinery platform must adhere to a very detailed schedule to ensure that every moment is put to good use. Since work on an oil refinery platform starts at midnight and refinery operations last for 24 hours straight, a worker who starts a midnight shift usually follows the schedule set by a superior. At 3:30 in the morning, the crew starts waking up and preparing equipment for the work shift. At 12 in the evening, they enjoy their first big meal before going to work and receiving instructions for the day. After a few hours of work, the first break is taken at 2 in the morning and followed by a second break at 4 in the morning. The second big meal is served at 6 in the morning, followed by personal time at 8 in the morning. The third break is taken at 10 in the morning, then the fourth break at 12 in the afternoon. The third big meal is served at 2 in the afternoon, and the shift ends at 4:30 in the afternoon after the last break. Before resting or sleeping, the crew should prepare themselves for the next day by taking time to eat a light meal and spend some time communicating with their families on land, chatting with coworkers, or preparing snacks in the kitchen. In addition, time to communicate with family and coworkers can be the emotional support they need to do their job well. Connecting offshore oil rigs to the mainland has always been important in this industry. This is because the mainland is the main source for refueling, equipment, and assistance in the event of an emergency. Because of this, companies in the industry focus heavily on logistics planning for transportation from shore. One of the most commonly used means of transporting crew, staff, and equipment is specially modified helicopters. Some of the top helicopter manufacturers such as Airbus and Bristol Group cater specifically to the needs of this industry. In addition to helicopters, vessels are also used as a method of connecting offshore platforms and land. Although vessels are often considered less than ideal due to a more difficult approach and higher safety risks, only a select few are capable of handling the job as experts on offshore oil refinery platforms. Aside from the lucrative salaries, there are many benefits that come with working in this industry. Their salaries are arguably unmatched considering the huge responsibilities involved in operating sophisticated equipment that requires experience and expertise. This gives workers the opportunity to spend time with their families after work. Most of their free time is usually spent relaxing with their families at home. When they return to work away from their families, companies generally provide comfortable accommodation, spousal employment opportunities, or family allowances. In addition, workers also get protection in the form of complete family insurance. In addition, workers on oil rigs must be prepared to face much higher risks compared to other jobs. According to some reports, offshore oil rig workers are up to 7 times more likely to have a fatal accident than the average professional worker in America. Out of every 100,000 workers on offshore oil rigs, there is an average of 27.1% mortality, much higher than the 3% to 4% mortality per 100,000 workers in regular jobs. In addition to the risk of death, These workers must also be prepared to work hard in a variety of conditions. Since operations on an oil refinery platform never stop, most workers have to work for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, even up to 28 days a month. They must also be prepared to work overtime if the project requires quick completion or in the event of an emergency. Although working on an offshore oil rig is full of risks and challenges, the salary offered is very attractive. The amount of salary depends on the position and the company they work for. For example, engineers on platforms usually earn an average of about 200,000 US dollars per year, or about 252 million rupiah per month. Of course, such high salaries are commensurate with the risks, responsibilities, and challenges faced by workers in such extreme work environments. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't you like and subscribe.